Darren, we good? Okay. All right, why don't we start with roll?
Director Assad Lucas. Here. Director Battistelli. Here. Director Goldstein.
Here.
Director Marsh-Holshin.
Here.
Director Potter.
Here.
I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as stated.
So moved.
Second. Director Assad Lucas.
Aye.
Director Battistelli. Aye. Director Goldstein.
Aye.
Director Marsh-Holshin.
Aye.
Director Potter.
Aye.
Okay, rise if you are able for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. We have a very special guest with us tonight, and our Liesl Reed is going to introduce the 5th place National Spelling Bee winner.
Okay. So when I took over coordination of the district spelling bee a couple of years ago, I was really terrified because the previous coordinator told me that we had one of the best spellers in the state of Colorado. Well, it turns out we have the 5th place at nationals winner, Aditi Muthukumar. Stand and wave, everybody. So over 11 million students compete in the spelling bee every year. And Aditi last year went to nationals, placed 74th. And this year, out of 245 of the best spellers in the country, she took 5th place. And I know among my spelling nerd friends, sorry, Aditi, we had a whole text thread going as we were watching nationals on ION TV and watching for her. And I was so amazed at how poised and gracious she was every time at the podium. So a little bit about Aditi. She's currently a 9th grader at Legacy High School. She loves to read Jane Austen and write as well. She performs Indian classical dance and plays the flute. So she is about as well-rounded as you can possibly get for an Adams 12 student or anyone. And then you're going to have to help me, Aditi, because the word you spelled to win the state bee was myrmecoxine? Myrmecoxine? To advance to national finals, myrmecoxine. Okay, I can't even look at it and get it right. But I want her to come up here and talk about her experience, but I have to say, Aditi, even when you misspelled a national to take 5th place, the smile on your face when you stood with your mom and dad and sister Adia was so inspirational. There was no disappointment. There was just like it was the best day of your life. And I just think that I was really inspired by that.
Hello, esteemed board members. Hello, everybody. I'm so honored to be here. I'm Aditi Muthukumar, and I'm a 9th grader at Legacy High School.
So, can we ask you some questions?
Of course, yeah.
I guess my question is, what does that word even mean?
So that word comes from the 2 Greek parts, myrmeko meaning ant and xenos meaning foreign. So I don't completely recall the definition. It's been a while, but I'm pretty sure it's like a foreign insect that coexists with ants.
Cool. Because don't they tell you the definition when they give you the words?
Yeah, they do.
Fascinating. Anybody else have any questions? I don't want to bombard her, but.
What are you thinking about after high school? Are you thinking that far yet?
So I'm definitely hoping to move on to college. I'm very interested in STEM, so I'd love to go into medicine because that's one of my passions. I love research. I love being there for the community. So I'd love to potentially be a doctor or go into research. But for now, I'm just hoping to see where the future will take me.
Just incredibly impressive
Thank you.
that you got, I mean, past state, fifth in national. I mean, that's just amazing. And so you have so many people who are proud of you, and I hope you are just as proud of yourself, if not more so, because that's a huge, huge accomplishment.
Thank you so much.
Well,
Can I ask a question real fast? So how old were you when you started thinking that you might want to do the spelling bee and be really competitive at the state and national level? And then the other part of the question is, how many hours a week would you typically practice?
So for the first part, I've been watching the National Spelling Bee since kindergarten. I've always been pretty good at spelling, I think. Like in elementary school, there would always be those weekly spelling tests that I loved doing. I would always be pretty good at. 5th grade is when I officially started participating in spelling bees, and then I started seriously spelling in the 6th and 7th grade. Could you repeat the second part of your question?
Yeah, how much time did you spend practicing, like during the course of a week or an average day or a month? I'm just trying, my sense is that you worked really hard at this.
Yeah, so weekdays would typically be anywhere between like 2 to 3 hours, but weekends, it was just whenever I had time. So it could go from like maybe 5 hours to like anywhere to 10 hours.
Awesome. I guess the final question is, can you compete again, and do you want to compete again if you can?
So no, I can't compete again. So it ends at the 8th grade level, so you can't participate in high school. But if I could participate, I would do it all over again.
Awesome.
I'm sure-
Congratulations.
I'm sure definitely when you do medical terminology, you're going to have a head start on everybody else.
I just wanted to say I assume this young woman right here is your sister, right?
Yes.
And I just want to say, I'm sorry. I'm sure you feel like you have huge shoes to fill now, right? But you'll make your mark. So.
Yeah, so she actually got 3rd place at the Colorado State Bee this year. Yeah.
So we just wanted to recognize you and show our how proud we are of your achievement. So we have a certificate and a card. And thank you, and parents, I'm sure you're so proud too. Do you guys want to all come down for a picture? And you get a picture with all of us. Okay, next on the agenda, we have another celebration. We are going to meet our new administrators. So, Chris, you want to introduce us to our new admin?
Sure, I think Bo Fobert's going to take the lead on this piece. We just feel like it's really important for the board not only to know senior leadership in the system, but folks who lead our schools and our directors and other places of important responsibilities in the system. so that if you have questions or there's things that you're wanting to dig into deeper, you at least have a face to attach to the name. So here we go.
Excellent. Thank you, Superintendent Gadowski. Board members, it's great to continue our longstanding tradition of introducing you to new administrators and leaders throughout our system. We have a variety of people that you're going to meet tonight, a variety of people who are going to do introductions. I'm glad that we've broken the ice with some photo opportunities because we're going to do that at the end. Those of you that are going to be introduced tonight, once one of us calls your name, come on up here. Let us finish the introduction. We're going to have you do a walk of pride across the room to the other side. Wait patiently against that wall until we're all done, and then we do a big group picture at the end. Sound good? Okay. I have the pleasure of starting us off tonight with our elementary and K-8 principals who are new to the system, and we're going to get it started tonight with our new principal at Cotton Creek, Lizzie Gooding. Lizzie has previously served as the assistant principal at Cotton Creek. She also spent 16 years as an educator, with 14 of those years in Adams 12 five-star schools. She has been a middle school language arts teacher, a teacher librarian, and technology coach, along with instructional coach and an assistant principal for the last 9 years. Very well-rounded indeed. The Cotton Creek community is thrilled to have her named as their new leader. Congratulations, Lizzie. You bet. This is your walk. There you go. Great. Next up is our new principal at the Studio School, Christy Sampson. As you know, the Studio School is our district's arts integration magnet school for students in grades K through 5. Christy has worked in Adams 12 for 20 years as a high school teacher, a middle school dean, middle school assistant principal, and an elementary assistant principal. A rare breed indeed to have worked at all 3 levels. She is thrilled to now start her dream job as principal and support the community at the Studio School. Congratulations, Christy. Next up is the new principal at Eagle View Elementary School, Lindy Peterson. Lindy has served in the Adams 12 district for the past 9 years in the capacity of teacher, instructional coach at the elementary level, and for the past 5 years as the assistant principal at Eagle View. Prior to joining Adams 12, she served 10 years in the Litchfield Elementary School District in Goodyear, Arizona as a teacher, reading specialist, and dyslexia practitioner. Congratulations, Lindy. Our next 2 principals were unable to be here tonight, but I do want to introduce them in their absence and tell you a little bit about them. First up is the new principal at Coyote Ridge Elementary, and that's Carolyn Webb. Carolyn began her elementary teaching career in Atlanta, Georgia in 2005. In 2010, she moved to Colorado and served as a classroom teacher, intervention teacher, instructional coach, and interim principal in Denver Public Schools over the course of 9 years. For the past 4 years, Carolyn has served as the assistant principal of Coyote Ridge Elementary and is delighted to have the opportunity to continue to lead the Coyote Ridge community as its new principal. And finally, at the elementary level is the new principal at Westview Elementary, Kelly Fleck. Kelly served as a Spanish teacher for 5 years in Colorado Springs District 11 and as a second grade teacher for 5 years in Adams 14. She then served as an instructional coach in Denver Public Schools before becoming an assistant principal at Stookie and Arapahoe Ridge Elementary in Adams 12. Kelly is thrilled to be serving the Westview community. And now we're going to pivot to the K-8 level, and it's my pleasure to introduce our new principal at Thunder Vista, Jody Roper. Jody has served the Thunder Vista community since the school opened 6 years ago. Prior to joining Adams 12, she served in the Adams 14 school district for close to 16 years as an educator. Jody has extensive experience in education, as she has served a diverse population of learners over her 20-plus year career. She previously served as the assistant principal at Thunder Vista, and Jody is highly invested in the community and will continue the tradition of excellence at Thunder Vista. Congratulations. And now it's my pleasure to hand the mic over to our Executive Director of Middle School, Scott Simon, who is going to do some introductions of our new middle school leaders.
Thank you. I'm excited to introduce two new leaders at our middle schools. Our first is Lashana Quarles at Rocky Top. Lashana joined the Adams 12 team 6 years ago after teaching science in the states of New York and North Carolina at the secondary level. Lashana served the last 6 years as an assistant principal at Westlake Middle School and at Century Middle School. Lashana has worked hard this summer to quickly transition to her new role and continue the traditions of success at Rocky Top Middle School. Our new principal of North Glen Middle School is Sarah Stone. Thank you. Unfortunately, she is unable to join us tonight, but Sarah started her teaching career 10 years ago at North Glen Middle School and has subsequently been a dean at Century Middle School and an AP at both Thornton Middle School and Centennial Elementary School. Sarah is a dedicated leader and is focused on maintaining the upward trajectory at North Glen Middle School. And I get to hand it off to the Executive Director of High Schools, Lee Peters.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you for having us here tonight. I'm excited to introduce Ms. Chrissy Koenig, the principal at Future Center at Pathways. Chrissy's career has been a longstanding counselor in our district at North Glen Middle School, Thornton High School, and Vantage Point Campus. And since 2010, she's been at Pathways as a counselor, dean of students, assistant principal, and she began her principal role last January as we made a mid-year change, and she's just going to be a huge upgrade over the previous person who's going to be introduced shortly. But her skills and talents and experience as a school counselor will serve her and her student body well. As you know, Pathways is made up of a student population who are over age and under credit and have many at-risk factors for missing out on graduation. So we're excited to have her leadership at Pathways. And up next, I'd like to introduce our Chief Academic Officer, Megan Kane.
Thank you. Before I get started introducing my people, I just want to say thank you for saying yes. And thank you every day for coming back and saying yes to this job, because it means everything to our system. So just want to say that out of the gate. The first person I would like to introduce is Miss Trina Spears. She is our new, yes, clap. Trina is our new Executive Director of Professional Learning and Strategic Planning. She has been in education for 28 years and in Adams 12 five-star schools for 23 years. Trina most recently served as the Director of Literacy. She has also served in various roles, including classroom teacher, assistant principal, principal, and central office leader. Please join me in welcoming Trina. Next up is Miss Teresa Gilbreth. So Teresa has been named this spring as our new Executive Director of Elementary and K-8 schools. And Teresa has served in Adams 12 five-star schools for the past 25 years in various roles, including a classroom teacher, instructional coach, district math specialist, and assistant principal. And most recently, she served as a principal at Cotton Creek Elementary. So, welcome. Next up, I'd like to introduce Stephanie Frankenfeld. So Stephanie has 23 years of experience at the elementary level and in Adams 12 five-star schools, serving in both the title and non-title environments as a principal, an assistant principal, and a classroom teacher. And she was most recently our school principal at Westview Elementary. She's now going to serve as our new Director of Literacy. Welcome. Next up, I'd like to welcome Kayla Swanton. So Kayla will begin serving as our new Director of Instructional Technology and Library Services. Kayla has served the system as an ITLS coordinator since 2017. In this time, she's persisted with multiple cross-functional teams, strategically planned and implemented resources, professional learning for our digital literacy partners, and led professional development to improve pedagogical practice for increased student achievement. We are excited for Kayla to bring her skills of collaborative leadership, her strong understanding of instruction, and her partnership approach to the work to our director team. Welcome. Next up, Ms. Teresa Bonallo. So Teresa began her position very quickly after she finished her last position this June as the Director of Preschool for Adams 12. We welcome her, and her most recent service was as the inaugural principal for the last 6 years at Thunder Vista P8, where she successfully built and implemented and integrated a P8 system. Prior to her tenure at Thunder Vista, she was a principal at Leroy Drive Elementary. Teresa had the opportunity to serve in the Adams 14 school district for close to 20 years prior to that as an elementary and middle school teacher, instructional coach, and administrator. Teresa has extensive experience in P8 education, including work with our own preschool program. We are thrilled to have Teresa bring her expertise to our youngest learners and educators who have the honor of serving them. So please welcome Teresa. And now I would like to pass off to Molly, our Chief Operating Officer.
All right, I have the pleasure of introducing our new business service administrators. And first up is Sarah Gruno. Sarah is our Nutrition Services Director. Sarah has 8 years of experience working with school nutrition operations and USDA programs, with the last 6 of those years as the Manager of Nutrition Operations here in Adams 12. Prior to being here, Sarah served as the Assistant Director of Nutrition Services in 2 Minnesota school districts, and we welcome her expertise and creativity as we march forward in our meal programs. Next up for business services is Carrie Lockermeyer. Carrie has the pleasure to serve us as our before and after school enrichment director. She brings over 30 years of experience with Adams 12, where she has pretty much held every role in the base department. She has served schools Centennial, Leroy, Glacier Peak, and has been at the central office level for many years now. We are excited as she previously served as our operations manager for base and is now the director of base. And with that, I will pass it off to Mila Shepard, our Chief Human Resource Officer.
Thank you, Molly. Well, as we wrap up the row of introductions tonight, it is my pleasure to introduce you to newly selected HR Director, Tim Griffin. So I had the opportunity to present Tim with his 20 years of service pin just last week. So 20 years in the district. Tim has served in a variety of roles here in that time. He most recently has served as the principal at Rocky Top Middle School and at Glacier Peak Elementary School for 9 years before that. Tim has been an assistant principal at the elementary and middle levels, and he was an American history teacher at some point in the distant past. Tim is a highly regarded leader of schools, and the work of the Human Resources Department is all about the supportive schools and the rest of our teams in the district. And so we're really looking forward to that expertise that he brings in supporting all employees. And I know we're going to be enriched by his insights and his experience. Welcome, Tim. I think there are 2 positions that we need to also recognize that there are new people in the role. At the new Chief Academic Officer, Megan Kane, and the Deputy Superintendent, Bo Faubert. And I'm not that good at speaking off the cuff about all your merits, but I've worked with you guys over the years. I had the pleasure of teaching you when you were in middle school. Oh, okay, I'm sorry, yes, and Molly. Well, we introduced Molly last spring. And with that, oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I appreciate the acknowledgement. I don't know if it's true of the 2 of them. I even forgot that I was new. It just felt just like a continuation, but thank you. I'd like to invite board members and Superintendent Godowski down. We always like to memorialize this with a kind of class of 24 photo, if you will. So we'd ask you to come down, and we're going to get a photo taken. We've got a big group this year, so we're going to figure out, it's not going to be against the wall like that. So come on out. We're going to kind of stage this a little bit, and we'll get set up.
So it's great to have these celebrations here in this meeting. So next on the agenda, superintendent update.
Thank you. So tonight, I just want to focus my comments on extending some words of appreciation for Bo Faubert and his dad, Joe. So last Wednesday was obviously a big night here in this boardroom with lots of folks in attendance. And the day started in a much different way than I think many of us had hoped when Bo received word that his dad, who'd been in hospice care, was entering into the final hours or perhaps days of his life. And so early in the day, Bo departed and spent the day with family and his dad, and then felt the obligation to come back to be part of the board meeting that night. And as you all know, Bo was eloquent and focused and passionate about the bond and override proposals. And near the end of that evening, while he was still in the space, he received another call that it was time to get back to the facility, and unfortunately, Bo wasn't able to get back before his dad had passed. I appreciate Bo's commitment to this district, and I think part of what allowed him to go forward in the way that he did that night is the legacy that he's mindful of that his dad and his mom have created in this district. Joe Faubert, many of you may know, was a long-standing educator in this system. I was lucky to have him as one of my teachers. He was a basketball coach, and kind of an ironic guy to be a basketball coach because he wasn't very tall, and he was carrying around a lot of extra pounds, at least at the time he was my coach, and didn't look very much like a basketball player. But what I love so much about Mr. Forward as a basketball coach is that he was super competitive and pushed us all to be 100% in and giving our best, and that's a life lesson that I've tried to apply in everything that I've done in life since. He was also my social studies teacher in 8th and 9th grade, and up until that point in time, social studies wasn't an area of very much interest for me. I thought there were a whole lot of career options I was thinking about, everything from engineering to medicine. And after being in Joe Fobert's class, he was intense, and he probably wasn't like the cool teacher that everyone wanted to have necessarily, but his passion for government and history and civics was unmatched by anybody. And I credit Joe Fobert as a very influential person in my life and leading me down the path that eventually became a political science major and going on to law school. One of my favorite memories of Joe Fobert was sharing a room with him at the University of Maryland College Park campus when I was a sophomore in high school. So twice in my life, I competed for national prizes. But unlike Aditi earlier tonight, I was nowhere close to being even in the top 5. But the contest I was involved in was a National History Day contest. And as a sophomore, I was the only kid outside of junior high in the system who had qualified. So Joe was willing to be a chaperone and a roommate for me. And one of my favorite memories was laying on our twin beds in a typical college dorm room in probably the early 1980s, early June in Maryland, no air conditioning. And we talked till probably 11 or 12 o'clock at night about a whole lot of things. And just having that kind of experience when you're a young kid with an educator and getting to see different dimensions of them than what you see in the classroom was just a really special memory for me. So I think part of what allowed Bo to compartmentalize and be present and lean into the work last Wednesday, even when he's dealing with one of the most heavy days that I think comes to us in life, which is losing a parent, was because of the legacy his dad left. And was part of the entire family. You may know Bo's mom, Donna, was an educator and principal in the system. Bo's brother is an educator in the system. His wife's an educator in the system. And I think there are aunts and uncles who've served as well. And Bo, I just appreciate your commitment to Adams 12. And I'm grateful for your dad's influence in my life.
Thank you.
That's all I have tonight.
Director Potter, we're moving on to board comments.
I would just like to echo what Superintendent Godowski said. My condolences are with you and your family, Bo. I know I appreciate all the help that you've been to me and my family, and I'm sorry for your loss. That is really all I have to say tonight as well.
Thank you. Director Marsh-Holson?
Yeah, I would echo the same. As a family of educators, I understand that divide often, and I didn't get to know your father, but I appreciate all the work you did last week and have done continuously. And I don't have any other board updates, but excited to start going into schools.
Thank you. Director Battistelli?
I guess I'll third everyone and say my condolences go to you and your family. I can't imagine how difficult that must be. I do have an update. I went to Cherry Drive Elementary, where I got to relive my teenage years of making fast food for people. I was able to, I made the teachers waffles that day, and I wore a fun little waffle hat. Chris and Lori have the proof if you really want to see it. But I was able to operate 3 waffle irons at once, and I think I deserve a plaque or something for that. And my waffles were primo, so I still have it. It was wonderful to be there and welcome the teachers back. That was the whole intention and purpose of it, and I was glad to serve in that capacity. Just as a small, token of my thanks. Obviously, we wish we could give more, but, we do what we can. And in honor of Hispanic Heritage Month, I believe, which has started this September, and trying to keep it educational and fresh, Ruben Donato. He is now Professor Emeritus at the School of Education, and a judge in southern Colorado recently discovered one of the earliest Mexican-American school segregation cases that took place here in Colorado. So if you're curious about that, it was the Francisco Maestas, I believe, et al. Versus George Schoen. So a fascinating case, and a fascinating moment in our history, showing the deep roots our Hispanic community have in our state. So,
Thank you. Director Assad Lucas.
I'll start off with also giving my condolences, and it's one of the hardest days is losing a parent, and so my thoughts are with all of you guys. I don't have any other updates. We've had lots of board meetings the past few weeks, so not much new, but I just want to say thank you to everybody from last week. And the past few years of working on Blueprint, and the time and commitment that's gone into it, the time and commitment that's gone into presenting it to us multiple times, showing it with the community, and looking forward to moving forward with it. So, thanks.
Thanks. And Bo, your family is a rock in this Adams 12 community, so my heart goes out to you guys too. I had the privilege, honor, experience of being invited to participate in a town hall. Representative Shannon Bird invited myself, the president of Jefferson County School Board and the president of Westminster Public Schools School Board, and 2 state school board members, our own Kathy Plomer and Congressional District 8's Rhonda Solis, to a town hall. And it was at Legacy Ridge Grill. That's where she holds her town halls. And I had to be late, and I told her I had to be late because I had a North Glen High School football game that morning. And I ran in, and just in time. But we had a really great conversation, and the questions that she asked were really, really conversation stimulating. And we had a really great conversation about the needs of each of our districts. Westminster's going for a bond, and us, and talking about accountability, talking about CMAS testing. And so it was really a great 2 hours that we went on talking about public education. And the people in the room were really appreciative of that. So that's the educationally oriented thing that I was able to do in the last week. On to public comment.
Good evening. The board welcomes public comments to learn about the preferences and concerns of the Adams 12 5-star community. Each speaker will have 3 minutes. Please use the microphone and state your name and city of residence before beginning your comments. Please give any handouts or information you would like to share with the board to Lee Coca here to my right. Speakers will be prompted with a sign when you have 30 seconds remaining. Please begin to wrap up your comments. Speakers will also be informed when time has expired. Please end your comments at that time. Our first and only speaker tonight is Thomas Scoville.
Good evening. Thomas Scoville, Thornton. Your meeting last week was an unseemly campaign rally fraught with electioneering and bullying. I've asked the superintendent to assess this, see if it's consistent with state law and board policy. Meanwhile, you might want to consider another message, because the current one is about payoffs to the union and bribes for parents. This is off-putting to many others. However, inspired by Director Assad Lucas's saying that she's ready to pay higher taxes if she knew the money would go to education, I've also asked the superintendent to tell us how to make donations to the Adams 12 General Fund. Here's an opportunity for the director and like-minded individuals to put money where mouths are and to inspire the rest of us. These donations could self-identify as taxes. And I see you're going to have a classified employee appreciation week. Bravo. But I continue to wait for a resolution on taxpayer appreciation. Why not share some of the love, some love for the ones paying your bills? While a single day each is sufficient for veterans and our war dead, maybe you could squeeze in a microsecond for taxpayers before the ballots go out next month. Meanwhile, recognizing the abomination of a 25% tax hike that we had to pay this year, Governor Polis called a special section to give us a limit of 5 or 6% growth per year. That's progress, but it does not roll back the gouging already done. He expects us to live with that forever, and you're going to keep every penny of it. And you have just gotten 25% more. I simply cannot understand why you need another 13%. That's a compounded rate of 41% over 2 years. This is not love for taxpayers. Finally, I'm corresponding with the staff on the $70 million you say is available each year for the $830 million bond. It sounds to me like you have some mills that have served their purpose and can be retired. I hope to hear more on this. Good evening, and God bless everyone.
Okay, next on the agenda, we have a revision to the MOU with CSEA in terms of the supplemental compensation for specified positions due to staffing shortages. So I'm going to invite, I think, Mila up here to explain. Or to summarize.
Hello again. Yeah, sorry, I wasn't sure if Chris was going to direct comments or if I was, so a little disorganized on my part. Anyway, right, last year, in response to staffing shortfalls that were significant in their nature, and in an effort to retain the really good and hardworking folks that we have in many of these classified roles who were covering and making up for vacancies, we implemented a incentive pay structure, and we as the CSEA, the union for our classified employees and HR, that's meant to address a couple of situations. One, when the numbers of vacancies really mean that the people who show up every day are doing double, triple the amount of work to cover for their absent colleagues or yet to be hired colleagues. And then the other situation is staffing shortfalls that require us to move people around. So you're hired to work as a custodian at a high school, but you regularly get called and asked to go to one of the elementaries because they simply don't have, they're not fully staffed yet. I'm happy to report that staffing shortfalls are easing a little bit. We every year coming out of the pandemic, we've done a bit better with our numbers of vacancies as we begin the year and as we go through the year. But we're not back by any stretch. Workforce shortages exist, and I think can predict will exist for many, many years to come. So we continue to struggle to find that just right balance of holding on to people and not burning them out through overwork, and yet recognizing that many of them are stepping up and doing a lot of extra load. So that's just a little bit of context around why that MOU came into being last year. As we looked at the start of the year this year, and is there still a need? What is our data telling us? We don't have anywhere near as many vacancies and needs for the movement, but we still have some. And so continuing that practice into another year allows us to recognize and honor people who are really carrying the load until we can fill all the vacancies. I'm happy to answer questions, or Superintendent Godowski, if you have any color commentary to add, I welcome it.
I don't. I thought that was a nice summary.
Okay. Questions? Any? Okay.
Thank you. And I'm going to blame it on me not putting my glasses on. But I do want to entertain a motion to approve this MOU.
So moved.
Second.
Does that work, Phil?
It's an MOA, Memorandum of Agreement with CSEA as presented.
Okay. Do I need to restate that?
It might be more clear.
Okay. I will entertain a motion to accept the Memorandum of Understanding with CSEA on the supplemental compensation for specified positions due to staffing shortages.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Director Assad Lucas.
Aye.
Director Battistelli.
Aye.
Director Goldstein.
Aye.
Director Marsh Holshin.
Aye.
Director Potter.
Aye.
Okay. And also because I did, thank you. Because of not wearing my glasses, we forgot the board committee liaison reports. DAC and facts. So we'll start with the DAC. Director Battistelli, do you have anything to report?
We did have a meeting shortly before the meeting last week, and it was largely an introductory meeting to see all the new parents and community members who are participating. And I'm pretty sure they gave them a broad overview. About 30 minutes into it, I had to dash over and meet with you guys. And the fun fact that we learned from that is that Dave does not like pomegranates because he's very fastidious and they're messy. So if you have a good source for pomegranate seeds, Dave needs it.
Thank you. How about the fact, Director Potter?
We had a very brief meeting. Really, it was just to decide who was going to come and present to us. I do want to point out that there was a little bit of a struggle because last time they presented to us, they got bumped pretty late in the agenda. So I promised I would at least ask if they could go earlier in the night and make sure that we are aware of when our guests are coming, fact-wise at least, because I think they were here like 10, 11 o'clock the last time they were here. So just putting that on the radar. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, on to more business. I will entertain a motion. This is the proclamation for Classified Employee Appreciation Week. I will entertain a motion to adopt the proclamation declaring October 7th through 11, 2024, Classified Employee Appreciation Week as presented.
So move.
Second.
Discussion?
Oh, just accept our classified staff. It would make it or break it without them, for sure, with supporting our kids in so many ways. And so many of our staff build such strong relationships with students that are incredibly meaningful. And one example that shares my boys' elementary school, the bus driver that has done that route for many years, comes to school events and celebrations to celebrate the kids that she sees twice a day or sometimes even more, and just to be with them and celebrate them because she has such a strong relationship with them. And that's just, again, one tiny example of what is happening system-wide. So thank you to all of our classified staff for everything you do every day for kids.
Well, and since knowing students by name, strength, and need is so important, so many of our classified folks do know those kids by name, strength, and need. Okay, call a vote.
Okay. Director Assad Lucas.
Aye.
Director Battistelli.
Aye.
Director Goldstein.
Aye.
Director Marsh Holshin.
Aye.
Director Potter.
Aye.
Okay, proclamation, Attendance Awareness Month. I will entertain a motion to adopt the proclamation declaring September as Attendance Awareness Month as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
I would love to have Marie, Lori, and Matt come up to the podium because I may have questions board members may have questions, but I think attendance is a huge issue. And I think going beyond just ratifying this resolution and having some insight about the scope of this challenge in our system and the steps we're trying to take as a district and as a region to better support attendance outcomes, it would be good to hear more from whichever of you would like to speak about the work that's underway.
Good evening, board, and good evening, Superintendent Godowski. We would just like to give a brief overview of the work that's been done over the last 18 months or so in the attendance space and some work that we'll be doing moving forward. In addition, to share some data with you as to why this is such a challenge for us here in Adams 12. I want to start off with a definition of chronic absenteeism. A student is chronically absent when they have missed 10% of the school year, and those absences can either be excused or unexcused, any reason at all that a student's not in school. So simply just missing 2 days of school per month can make a student chronically absent and add up to that 10% of the year. So when we think about just taking a day off because it's a birthday or it's not a big deal, it's a Friday to a long weekend, those days do add up very quickly and have a significant impact on our students. This graphic, I think, is pretty telling in that the graphic on the left shows the intensity of students that are chronically absent pre-pandemic, so in 2017. The one on the right shows the impact of chronic absenteeism in our country post-pandemic in 2023, so a pretty significant change in a very brief, short period of time. This data gets a little more localized when we look at the chronic absenteeism rate in the state of Colorado from the 2016-17 year to the 22-23 school year, and you can see the spike that we would anticipate after the pandemic. And then also when we compare it to the chronic absenteeism rate in Adams County. In the 22-23 school year, 1 out of every 3 students in the state of Colorado were considered to be chronically absent. That equates to about 270,000 students. And in Adams County alone, that's 46,000 students. I think this graphic is pretty interesting and telling as well. In the state of Colorado, in the state of Colorado, what absenteeism looks like by grade level. So this graphic in particular shows students in kindergarten and 12th grade have the highest rates of chronic absenteeism. However, in Adams 12, that looks a little bit different. So in this graphic, you can see last year, our students who were most chronically absent were in either 8th, 11th, or 12th grade. When we think about race and ethnicity, again, this graphic shows a comparison of Adams 12 and the state of Colorado. And this is by specialized programming. So our students that are multilingual learners, experiencing homelessness, migrant, special education, et cetera, you can see how they are often more highly impacted by chronic absenteeism as to their peers within the system. Looking at chronic absenteeism, attendance rate, and truancy rates, you'll see in Adams 12 that we generally fall kind of in the middle between the county and the state. But the numbers are pretty compelling when we think about in the 22-23 school year, 33.6% of the students in our system were considered to be chronically absent. And just one more graphic that compares Adams 12, Adams County, and the state of Colorado in the space of chronic absenteeism, attendance rate, and truancy. So as you can see, attendance is a challenge. One of the hardest parts about attendance is that there's always another root cause. Attendance is never the primary issue. It's never the primary barrier. And so one of the most challenging things that we do in the attendance space is trying to uncover what that more challenging barrier is so that we can then identify ways to remove it. So it could be health issues, it could be academic issues, it could be mobility issues, or a combination thereof. Our Commissioner of Education, Dr. Cordova, has joined along several other states in the nation to reduce chronic absenteeism as from the high in the pandemic by 50% by the end of the 26-27 school year. So in Colorado, that would be a reduction that is 17.8% in the next couple of years. Definitely achievable, but a big challenge. So what have we done in Adams 12 in the last 18 months to address the chronic absenteeism rates that we have? First of all, our attendance intervention services team became part of a chronic absenteeism cohort with the Colorado Department of Education. We were one of 10 school districts in the state to be part of this opportunity. It was great learning to really examine what are our challenges, where are we successful, and where can we be better. Additionally, we are part of the Adams County Collaborative Management Partnership. That's an organization of school districts and multiple service organizations within Adams County that come together to think about ways that we can reduce further penetration into the system for families. So it could be that they have a student that's been adjudicated, they may be connected with social services, there may have been addiction issues, things like that. And so how do we support those families so that there's not further engagement with our systems? Because of that, that team has identified a priority within the work that we do, and we hosted the first ever attendance summit in Adams County. Memberships that attended from Adams 12 included our intervention services team, our student family outreach program, our extended learning team, our equity engagement team, our executive director of secondary options and innovative programming. We're all part of that work. And then we are also part of the Adams and Broomfield County Truancy Program teams. So those are teams that work with our truancy court magistrates and judges to address our processes within that system to reduce the number of students and families that are engaged in truancy court. Moving on to this school year, we've increased our scope of initiatives all the way from the classroom level to the national level. We continue our work with the Adams and Broomfield County Truancy teams. We are continuing the work with the Adams County Collaborative Management Partnership, where we have a county-wide attendance campaign, which you had a little swag given to you this evening earlier, that's connected to that. So it's a county-wide initiative to identify and remove barriers for students who are considered chronically absent. We have awareness, we've given talking points to our community and just really lifted up the importance of the work that we have to do to address chronic absenteeism in Adams County as a collective work. It's not specific to one school or one team or one department. It's something we all have to engage in collectively to ensure our students are attending school. We know that when students are engaging in school, they have better likelihoods of reading on grade level and graduating, which then has a long-term impact on our community. As you've just done, you've identified and proclaimed that September is Attendance Awareness Month in Adams 12, just again bringing a system-wide awareness to the importance of attendance. And then finally, Marie, Matt, and I are part of the League of Innovative Schools and Digital Promise Chronic Absenteeism cohort. We are one of 19 school districts across the country engaged in a 6-month-long cohort where, again, we are identifying root causes and looking for strategic ways to address chronic absenteeism and reducing that rate within Adams 12. So just check with my colleagues if there are other pieces you want to add to the information we've shared with our board tonight.
I think we would just add that we know that this work, this crisis is far-reaching, and we know that the complexity of being able to really address this issue requires all of us, not only students, staff, and our communities. And so as you can see, we have 3 departments invested in this work, and our work with the League is really grounded in research-based practices that really come alongside in an innovative and unique way for us to really take a look at how we engage with multiple stakeholders within our community and beyond to address this in an innovative approach. So we're really excited about that opportunity, and we hope that we would have also the opportunity to share updates along the way with each of you.
So one of the things just to keep in mind, all the work that's been done in Blueprint ties into dealing with chronic absenteeism, right? So we're looking at ways we can engage students all across the spectrum. And when you look at the Adams 12 data, what's particularly interesting is that really heavy concentration of chronic absenteeism at those upper grade levels, and then again at the 8th grade. So when you think about the work that we've been looking at over the last 2 years, putting that plan together, it's how do we find programming that's engaging for more students in our district, all the way from adding CTE courses in the middle school to expanding CTE programming at our high schools, and then, of course, the whole concept of re-envisioning what Thornton High School is going to look like.
We're happy to entertain any questions or provide additional information or context if you'd like.
Always with the questions now. But I am kind of curious if we'll ever, I mean, if you have plans to, I know we collect data to the degree that parents report the data on why kids are absent. So I don't know if there is a plan to share that data as sort of a talking or reflection point with the board. I would be curious to see it. Some other wonderings I have is with regards to transportation. Is transportation part of the issues we're seeing with maybe some of the younger kids and not being able to get to school? To what degree? And I know we're focused on the 8th graders and the 11th and 12th, but you know, I'm just trying to investigate all of the potential reasons for that. That's another thought that comes to mind.
When it comes to looking at the reasons why students are absent, because that information is self-reported by parents, we don't necessarily always know why a student is absent. Sometimes they don't have access to a phone to be able to inform us. They may not have access to medical care to tell us, you know, is it a particular diagnosis or something like that. So we can pull that data only to the extent at which it's been reported to us. In the transportation space, that can be a barrier. Our Student Family Outreach Program works very, very closely with our transportation partners, and they are fantastic about finding unique and creative ways to help get our kids to school. But again, it is an ongoing challenge, I think, just across the board for families.
I have a question, and I'm not sure which end to direct this to, but is there some continued education or some opportunities there to help our educators better understand kind of how to differentiate between absentee situations? I'm thinking more like a student is out with an illness or concussion, comes back, struggles to come back, now they're behind, and often, I shouldn't say oftentimes, sometimes the educators are like, okay, well, you're behind, go get a tutor, go figure it out. Next thing you know, they're not going to class anymore because they don't feel like they can catch up, as opposed to a kid, you know, and that student maybe wanted to be there but had something happen, as opposed to a student who does not want to be there. Is there some kind of dialogue going on in that space?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, and I can tell you, even going to the cohort that Lori's team was a part of with the state, and meeting with people from other districts and schools, and then the research that we're starting now at the League of Innovative Schools is really diving into those reasons. But one of the things that's already come out of that work is exactly what you're talking about, and it's how do we change how we react to students, right, as professionals. Having come from the place that worked with the students that had the worst attendance in the district for almost 10 years, that is a game changer, right? When a kid's gone and they come back and you're not just immediately on them for being gone and like, oh my God, we got to help you get caught up, but like, hey, it's great to see you, Courtney. You know, it's like, that makes a huge difference. And that's come out of that work that happened with the CDE cohort. I'm going to take a wild guess it's going to come out of the work that we're doing with the League of Innovative Schools. Absolutely. And then it comes into play is how we're going to make sure our educators understand the importance of their approach. And one of the things that does tie into this, it's not exactly tagged to it, but it all fits, is we have a program what we're piloting with 5 schools this year called Capturing Kids' Hearts. You'll see it at 2 high schools, Legacy High School, Horizon High School, 2 middle, Shadow Ridge, Century, and then STEM Launch for our K-8. And this program is all about working with our adults in the building on how we treat kids. We talk a lot about name, strength, and need, but really looking at how do we actually work with adults to be strong at that, because it sounds simple, it's not always simple, but that ties directly into that. How do we work with students when they come back from being gone?
That's amazing. I'm so excited to hear that as a mom that has a kiddo that had to come back after an injury. It was a struggle at times, so I'm really grateful that we're leaning into that and finding all the ways to encourage kids to come back. Thank you.
Have you seen, like, has data shown some improvement with attendance with the new calendar, especially with being in sync with older high school, middle school kids maybe also missing when elementary schools were in session due to having to stay home and help out or whatever the case may be. Have we seen any change with that, with the absenteeism at the higher levels?
We have seen an improvement, or a reduction, I should say, in our chronic absenteeism rate in Adams 12 from the 22-23 to this last school year. But I think at this point, being 1 year into the new calendar, it'll be pretty difficult to draw direct correlation at this time. But there is possibility that we will find that there's some connection there for sure.
Kind of piggybacking off of that, and not to freak anyone out, I'm not making any suggestions, but being in a cohort like this, I hear a lot in the community the frustration that the major school districts are not on the same schedule. And so I can't go on vacation with my kids at this time because we're on different schedules, or I need childcare during this time. Is that cohort maybe open to having that conversation?
I might jump in with that piece a little bit. No worries bringing that up. It's a very legitimate point. It's something we have heard. As we now have had 1 full year with our revised calendar moving into this year, we plan later this fall to collect some feedback across the community about what's working, where we might need an adjustment. One piece that's been very clear is the difficulty, especially around spring break in particular, where I've heard our lack of alignment with some other peers nearby is challenging. That's an important data point. We have folks in our system that teach here that have kids in other districts or vice versa. And we don't want to create an unnecessary barrier, certainly for employees, but most definitely for students in those situations. So it's a great point to bring up, not causing any freak out. And it's something that we're going to have to consider as we tweak and adjust our calendar moving forward.
I don't want to call Adams 12 out because I don't think any, Jeffco, Boulder, Denver, I don't think any of them were on the same week, if I remember correctly. Yeah, so I don't think it's a standalone problem.
It's not, but I think our move maybe created another week of difference in there. I've heard Chris talk before among his superintendent colleagues of, maybe some interest in that space. I won't speak for him, but I think those things can be very tricky, even if well-intended. But regardless, we need to be open to some feedback in that space.
I'll just add that I think Boulder and Jeffco superintendents have interest in seeing if there's a way for us all to get on a more similar calendar. As early as next year, we'll see. You can have the interest, but then getting into brass tacks and getting it done can be challenging, but we're going to give it our best go.
Superintendent Gadowski, do other districts, have they caught on yet? Are they like, wow, you guys are doing great things with this calendar, we want to come over to your side of the party? Or are they still like, knock it off, go back to normal?
I think there are varied perspectives within our district and in other district about our calendar and their calendars. So in our district, we have, I think staff generally are favorable about the calendar that we used last year and are starting this year, and the ability to have every 6 to 8 weeks, a week away. Staff have indicated that's allowed them to be more present and less stressed and more effective. I think parents often find, in many cases, it to be challenging to find childcare for a week periodically during the course of the year when their kids are out of school. So that can be a different perspective from some parents. I do know that our calendar, there are a lot of employees in some neighboring districts who are fond of our calendar and are urging their districts to adopt a similar one. And then there are many in our district who'd like us to go and have a 4-day calendar like 27J. So there's lots of different interests between staff and parents about what's the right way. Our real motivation behind calendar change was to improve quality of instruction and attendance, both of staff and students. And we made some really modest gains last year. But this whole attendance challenge that these 3 colleagues are talking about, it's complicated. And as much as you'd like to say, all right, we're giving you periodic times to tap out, to chill out, rest, play, and then come to school consistently and play hard, that hasn't worked. We haven't made the leap forward that I would have hoped. So it's a complicated issue for sure.
Does 27J or the 4-day work week actually show a difference in attendance rate? Does anyone?
I don't know that information, but it wouldn't be difficult to find out. We could absolutely reach out to our colleagues in 27J just to see if there's a comparison from the last couple of years.
I believe that Chalkbeat released an article recently on the 4-day school week and some of the academic reasons for pursuing it or not pursuing it. I think there's some data now, and I'm pretty sure it suggests that the 4-day week is not so great as far as student growth. Yeah.
I can just tell you, as neighboring districts that have a similar demographic profile in terms of free and reduced lunch and multilingual learners, that our student achievement and growth is significantly higher than 27J's has been. There can be other factors beyond. Certainly, they're funded quite a bit less than us, and so some of the wraparound services and supports that we feel like make a difference for kids, they have less of there. But other than grad rate, they lag us fairly significantly in terms of a lot of other achievement and growth factors.
Right now, when a family like calls in because their kiddo's sick, or they go online, or however they mark them out, is there like a checkbox or something online, like a form they fill out to say their kid's absent?
It's a phone call into the school, yes.
Okay.
So, and
It's
then
only a
the
phone-
school staff then have to mark the attendance manually.
And do they have like a checklist of like options to pick from?
Correct, yes. It's basically an excused absence or an unexcused absence, unless it's a school-related activity or the student has been suspended. So it's really, those are kind of the categories that are.
Okay, back to Paula's point, I think having that, or maybe Alexis's, to have that data of like broken down of why they're leaving, even if it was like excused doctor appointment, athletics, or sick, like I think that would be really great, especially as I'm starting to see like the chatter in the mom groups already of COVID is starting to circulate again. Keep your kids home. Like, did you sniffle? You better stay home for 10 days. And it would be really interesting to me to figure out how much of attendance is being driven by what kind of category. So just looking for ways to improve kind of that option. And I know at a charter school, we can't call in. We have to do an online form, and we as a parent have to check the box. And so that they collect some of the data that way.
I think, though, Lori, you made a great point when you said many times the parents don't call in. So I think it's just, it would be interesting too, even with that, to have the rate of parents who aren't reporting. So.
Thank you for all the work that you guys do on this.
Okay. Director Assad Lucas.
Aye.
Director Battistelli.
Aye.
Director Goldstein.
Aye.
Director Marsh-Holschen.
Aye.
Director Potter.
Aye.
All right. Next on the agenda, at Board IBS representatives, bargaining starts next week, I believe. So we just wanted to touch base with you guys on that. I myself am still interested in serving on this committee.
I am also still interested in serving on this committee.
And this committee, I think part of the beauty of it is the consistency of having people from year to year that are familiar with the process and the historical aspects of it. So is there any conversation or objection? Okay, we just wanted to make sure you were informed. Okay. I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the regular board meeting of August 21st, 2024, and the work study session of August 21st, 2024 as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Director Assad Lucas.
Aye.
Director Battistelli.
Aye.
Director Goldstein.
Aye.
Director Marsh-Holschen.
Aye.
Director Potter.
Aye.
Okay, on to consent agenda. Personnel actions to approve the I will entertain a motion to approve the personnel actions as listed, resignations and terminations, transfers and reassignments, employment, and leaves of absence.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Director Assad Lucas.
Aye.
Director Battistelli.
Aye.
Director Goldstein.
Aye.
Director Marsh-Holschen.
Aye.
Director Potter.
Aye.
Okay, on to future agenda items. Our next meeting is September 18th, 2024. my dad's 96th birthday. Yeah. Anyway, we have a list of things here that are potential agenda items. I also want to point out on Friday the 13th is a very important football game. You'll find out who won at this meeting if you don't find out ahead of time.
So I made dinner a dinner date with a friend like 6 months ago, and just had to text her today, say I have to change it. I have an important game to go to.
Yeah, it's the North Bend Thornton football game, the I-25 Bowl. Then we have a special board meeting on the 25th of September here at the ad building to meet with principal representatives. Every year we meet with a group of a slice of the principals, and we have an opportunity to hear from them what's going on in their schools. And then the next meeting will be October 2nd. Anything anybody wants to add? I like starting an hour earlier. I hope you guys do too, because now you get to go home earlier. All right, we're adjourned.